Have you ever wondered how our modern world of smartphones, skyscrapers, and global supply chains came to be? It wasn't an overnight change. It was a revolution, not of swords and soldiers, but of steam, iron, and ideas. This is the story of how humanity hit the fast-forward button, the Industrial Revolution. Our journey begins in Great Britain in the mid-1700s. Why there? Imagine it as a perfect storm. Britain was sitting on mountains of coal and iron ore, the literal fuel and building blocks of industry. This gave them a huge head start with cheap energy and strong metal. But resources alone aren't enough. Britain had a stable government and, crucially, strong property laws. This meant inventors and investors felt safe. Their ideas and their money wouldn't just be taken away. They could risk big, knowing they could also win big. Add to this a massive global trade empire. Ships were constantly bringing in raw materials like cotton from India and sugar from the Caribbean, feeding the hungry new machines. And there was one more piece to the puzzle, happening not in the cities, but in the countryside, the agricultural revolution. New farming techniques created massive food surpluses. For the first time in history, a country could feed its population with far fewer farmers. This freed up millions of people to move to the cities, creating a huge, ready workforce for the factories that were about to spring up. Britain was primed to become the workshop of the world. It's a key moment to grasp. It wasn't just machines that were changing. It was humanity's fundamental relationship with time, work, and power itself. So what were these machines that changed everything? The first wave hit the textile industry. For centuries, making cloth was a slow, manual process done in cottages. Then, boom. In just a few years, a series of incredible inventions appeared. The spinning jenny in 1764 allowed one worker to spin multiple threads at once. Then came the water frame, which used water power to spin even stronger thread. And finally, the spinning mule combined the best of both, skyrocketing fabric production. Suddenly, clothes that were once a luxury became affordable for the masses. But the true game changer, the engine of the entire revolution, was the steam engine. While early versions existed, it was James Watt's crucial improvements in the 1760s that turned it into a powerhouse. His engine was far more efficient and could be used for almost anything. Factories were no longer chained to rivers for power. They could be built anywhere, in the middle of a city, next to a coal mine, wherever they were needed. Steam power was about to reshape the very landscape of the country. This new power demanded stronger materials, and that's where iron came in. A breakthrough by Abraham Darby in the early 1700s using coke, a purified form of coal, to smelt iron, made it possible to produce high-quality iron on a massive scale. This iron was used to build the machines, the factories, the bridges, and most importantly, the railways. With steam power and strong iron, transportation was revolutionized. A network of canals was dug, connecting industrial centers. Then came the railways. Steam locomotives chugging along iron tracks could move goods and people faster and farther than ever imagined. Local markets turned into national and then global networks. A piece of pottery made in Staffordshire could be in a London shop in days and on a ship to America in a week. The world was shrinking, but this incredible progress had a dark side. As factories sprouted, cities like Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool exploded in size. People flooded in from the countryside, desperate for work. What they found were conditions we can barely imagine today. This was the era of the 14-hour workday, 6 days a week, in dangerous, deafeningly loud factories. Child labor was not just common, it was the norm. Children as young as 5 or 6 worked in coal mines and textile mills, their small hands perfect for fixing jammed machines. The human cost was immense. For every smokestack that rose, a new kind of human struggle was born. The cities themselves were a nightmare. Families were crammed into poorly built tenements in sprawling slums. Sanitation was non-existent. Overcrowding and polluted water led to devastating outbreaks of diseases like cholera and typhoid. A new urban working class was forged in these harsh conditions, poor, exhausted, but absolutely vital to the new industrial economy. At the same time, a different class was on the rise: the middle class. These were the engineers who designed the machines, the managers who ran the factories, the merchants who sold the goods, and the bankers who financed it all. They benefited immensely from the new wealth being generated. This growing gap between the wealthy industrialists and the impoverished working class created immense social tension. It's no coincidence that this era gave birth to both modern capitalism, celebrating individual enterprise, and socialism, which called for a fairer distribution of that new wealth. So where did all these world-changing ideas come from? The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about cogs and wheels. It was a revolution of the mind. Science and industry entered into a powerful feedback loop. Scientific discoveries in chemistry led to better dyes for textiles and stronger alloys for metals. Advances in mechanics helped build more efficient engines. In turn, the practical problems of industry spurred new scientific questions. The groundwork had been laid a century earlier during the scientific revolution, which fostered a culture of observation, experimentation, and questioning authority. This spirit of innovation was now supercharged by a new legal tool: the patent system. Inventors could now protect their creations, giving them a powerful financial incentive to keep inventing. And to fund these grand projects, the factories, the mines, the railways, you needed money. A lot of it. A sophisticated system of banking and credit emerged, allowing capital to flow to where it was needed most. Large-scale investment became possible, accelerating the pace of change. As the economy grew more complex, education and literacy became more important. A literate workforce could read manuals, follow complex instructions, and contribute to innovation themselves. In this new world, knowledge became a currency, and curiosity became a superpower. The fire lit in Britain didn't stay there for long. By the 1800s, the sparks had jumped across the English Channel to Belgium, France, and Germany, and then across the Atlantic to the United States. Each nation adapted the revolution to its own resources and culture, but the results were transformative everywhere. The ripple effects changed everything. Economically, it cemented the rise of global capitalism, consumer culture, and international trade on a scale never before seen. Socially, it drove the growth of cities, created new class structures, and sparked movements for reform, from workers' rights and women's suffrage to the abolition of slavery. Politically, industrial power became national power. Nations with factories and modern armies were able to build vast colonial empires, dominating those without. And environmentally, this was the beginning of our modern predicament. The large-scale burning of fossil fuels started a trend of pollution and environmental change that we are still grappling with today. The Industrial Revolution didn't just build factories, it built the future we now inhabit. It thrust the world, for better and for worse, into the modern age. When you zoom out, you see these incredible underlying themes. You see innovation driven by the twin engines of necessity and profit. You see a monumental power shift, away from the old aristocracy of landowners and towards the new titans of industry. And you see the great paradox of the era: incredible progress and innovation built directly on the back of exploitation and human suffering. It was also humanity's first real encounter with automation anxiety, the fear that machines would take jobs, a fear that is very much alive today. Historians and scientists now call this the beginning of the Anthropocene, the age where human activity became the dominant influence on the planet's climate and environment. The story of the Industrial Revolution is the story of how we got here. It's a complex, messy, and deeply human story of genius and greed, progress and pain. Understanding it is key to understanding the world we live in right now. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. See you next time.